The missing persons case of Ay-Sha Degree. Ay-Sha was 9 years old when she went missing from her home in Shelby, North Carolina, February 14th, 2000. Little Ay-Sha packed her bag and left her home in the middle of the night. Ay-Sha stood 4 foot 6 inches tall and weighed 60 pounds. She has black hair, brown eyes, and likes to wear her hair in pigtails. She is of African American descent. She was possibly wearing white jeans, a white shirt, and white sneakers at the time of her disappearance. Despite the wind and heavy rain, she began walking along North Carolina Highway 18, which was close to her home. Several people passing by saw her. One motorist even turned around and tried to approach her, but she ran away into a wooded area. This encounter was 1.3 miles from Ay-Sha's house. When her parents woke up the next morning, they discovered her missing from her bedroom. No one has seen her since. The search began. They recovered some of her things from the location that she was last seen. After a year and a half, her backpack, still packed, was uncovered at a construction site along Highway 18 in Morganton, North Carolina. A billboard now stands at the location where Ay-Sha ran into the woods, appealing for help finding this little girl. Her family hosts an annual walk from their home to the billboard to draw attention to the case. I couldn't imagine what they're going through. While at first, her disappearance may seem to suggest that she was running away from home, but investigators couldn't come up with a clear reason that she would do such a thing. Why would a 9-year-old girl just pack up in the middle of the night, in the middle of a storm, and run away? Years after her disappearance, the authorities concluded that Ay-Sha was abducted after she left her home. In 2015, the Federal Bureau of Investigation joined the state and county authorities in reopening the investigation, offering a reward for information that could help solve this case. Ay-Sha's parents, Harold and Aquila Degree, got married on Valentine's Day, 1988. In 2 years, they had 2 children, their son, O'Brien, and Ay-Sha. Ay-Sha was the younger of the 2. They lived in a residential subdivision in a rural area on the western edge of Charlotte, North Carolina. They stated that they tried to make sure that their children were protected from outside influences, surrounding themselves with extended family, church, and school. Aquila said Ay-Sha handled this well. She was cautious, shy, and content mostly to stay within the limits that her parents set. Aquila stated, "She was scared to death of dogs. I never thought that she would go out of the house." February 12th. Ay-Sha and her brother O'Brien both have basketball games at Burns Middle School. The girls' Pee Wee team plays first. Ay-Sha fouls out 3 minutes before the game ends. Ay-Sha's team loses, their first loss of the season. "She kept saying that the referees cheated," said Miss Degree. Her basketball coach, Chad Wilson, said he believes Ay-Sha was just upset about the loss of the game. "I don't think the referee was trying to single out Ay-Sha. Sometimes kids just don't understand all the rules of the game. Bad calls are just part of the game," said Wilson. Ay-Sha's parents said that Ay-Sha cried after the game. All of the girls were crying, not just Ay-Sha, and they had a good cry afterwards because it was their first loss, Coach Wilson said. Just a few minutes later, she was smiling, joking, and having a good time. Ay-Sha and her mother sit and watch her brother O'Brien's basketball game. "I sat behind her for part of the boys' game and tossed a towel over her head and joked with her. She didn't show any behavior or say anything that led me to believe that she wasn't happy. We joked like we normally do, and she was very happy when sitting with her mother," said Coach Wilson. The next day, the children went to church. At about 8 p.m. that night, they went up to their room that they shared and got into their beds. Around 9 p.m., there was a car accident in the neighborhood, which resulted in the power going out. At 12:30 a.m., the power finally come back on, and Harold went and checked on the kids and saw that they were both asleep in their beds. Before he went to bed himself, at about 2:30 a.m., he looked in on the children one more time and saw that they were both still asleep. Around this time, O'Brien, aged 10 at the time, says he remembers Ay-Sha getting up and going to the bathroom, then returned to her bed. He said that she was dressed in her white nightgown with red trim and a teddy bear on the front. Shortly after that, he reports hearing her bed squeak and believes that she's just tossing in her sleep. When Aquila woke up at 6 a.m. on February 14th to get the kids ready for school, she ran their bath, and at 6:30 when their alarm went off, she went into their room and saw that O'Brien was in his bed, but Ay-Sha was not. Aquila searched for Ay-Sha in the house, in all the rooms and closets. She went outside and looked in their cars, but she was nowhere to be found. She told Harold that she couldn't find her anywhere, and he thought maybe Ay-Sha wandered over to his mother's house across the street. So Aquila called over there. Her sister-in-law answered the phone and stated that she hadn't seen her. That's when I went into panic mode. I heard a car next door and put my shoes on and ran outside, Aquila said. She then called her mother, who told her to call the police. Aquila tossed the phone to her husband and began running up and down the neighborhood, calling out Ay-Sha's name. At 6:39 a.m., Harold called police. The first officer arrived around 6:45 a.m. Soon after, more officers arrived and asked for photos of Ay-Sha. The sheriff then calls for the canine unit. Aquila stated, "By 7 o'clock, we had every cop in the county here. Every news reporter had shown up. 5 or 6 local news channels were there, and the local newspapers. By the time 7 o'clock came, I was plastered all over the television." Friends, family, neighbors, and many volunteers canceled their plans for the day to assist police in searching for Ay-Sha, while the pastor of the church, along with other clergymen, came to the Degrees' home to support them. Teams from the Sheriff's Office and Canine, Shelby Rescue, Upper Cleveland County, Cleveland, Boiling Springs Canine, Kesar, Falston, Oak Grove, and Waco Police and Fire arrived to assist in the search. Around 12 p.m., ANC Highway Patrol helicopter from Salisbury arrives and searches the area. The sheriff is reported as saying, "They have 2 reported sightings by 2 motorists who saw a girl who matches Ay-Sha's description on Highway 18 at 3:45 a.m. and again at 4:15 a.m. It is stated that the motorist did not call the police until about 5 p.m. that evening, when he saw the news report that the girl was considered missing. The motorist said that he turned his car around because he thought it was strange that such a small child would be out by herself at that hour. He circled 3 times and saw Degree run into the woods by the roadside and disappear. It was a rainy night. The witness stated that there was a storm raging when he saw her. County Sheriff Dan Crawford said, "We're pretty sure it was her because the descriptions they gave are consistent with what we know she was wearing." He added that they also saw her at the same place, heading in the same direction. By the end of the day, all that had been found was a mitten, which Aquila Degree said did not belong to her daughter, noting that no winter clothing had been taken from the house. On February 15th, candy wrappers were found in a shed at a nearby business along the highway, near where Ay-Sha had been seen running into the woods. Along with the wrappers were a pencil, a marker, and a Mickey Mouse-shaped hair bow that were identified as belonging to her. On February 16th, Aquila realized that Ay-Sha's bedroom was missing her favorite clothing, including a pair of blue jeans with a red stripe, and her basketball uniform. A week later, the search was called off, after 9,000 man-hours had been invested in a search of a 2 to 3 mile radius of where she had last been seen. Flyers had been posted all over the area. Over 300 leads had been submitted that ranged from possible sightings to tips about abandoned houses or wells where Ay-Sha may have ended up. "We have never really had that first good substantial lead," said County Sheriff Dan Crawford at a news conference. He urged the media to keep the story alive. The media attention went national. A month after Ay-Sha's disappearance, the Degree family appeared on the Montel Williams show to call attention to the case. America's Most Wanted and the Oprah Winfrey Show also devoted segments to it. A year and a half later, August 2nd, 2001, Terry Fleming was cutting a new road through the woods by the highway, where he uncovered a plastic bag that he said looked strange to him. He dodged the bag for several hours, going on with his work clearing trees and underbrush from the roadside forest. "I noticed it for a while and didn't bother it," said Fleming. "I go in and clean up areas all the time and never think about it. At first, I thought something could be in it that I didn't want to open up in the heat, but something kept drawing him back to it. He even used his 47,000-pound track hoe to maneuver the bag, thinking it should come open. It didn't. He finally threw it over and opened it. A black and beige book bag was inside. He didn't describe all the contents of the backpack, but he found Ay-Sha's name and a phone number inside." On the 20th anniversary of Ay-Sha's disappearance, the FBI confirmed that the backpack contained a copy of Dr. Seuss's McElligot's Pool and a t-shirt depicting the band New Kids on the Block. The contents appeared to have been her property before they were found in her bag. The book was from the library at her elementary school. The FBI took it into their headquarters for further forensic analysis. Results from the testing have not been shared publicly. To date, it is the last evidence found in the case. 14 years later, February 9th, 2015, the FBI announced that FBI agents, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office investigators, and the State Bureau of Investigation agents were re-examining the case and re-interviewing witnesses and would be following up on any new leads they developed. Along with this, the FBI offers up rewards up to $25,000 for any information that leads to an arrest in Ay-Sha's case, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children creates a new age progression of what Ay-Sha may look like. A community group is offering $20,000 as well, so together, that's a $45,000 reward. The degrees do everything in their power to keep Ay-Sha's memory and case relevant in the public's mind. In 2008, they dedicated a scholarship in Ay-Sha's name to a deserving student. They also host an annual walk. Although Ay-Sha went missing on February 14th, Harold and Aquila had it moved to February 6th. They felt it wasn't fair for everyone participating to make their Valentine's Day a gloomy occasion. With this walk, they raise awareness and money to further fund the search for their daughter. The walk starts at their home and ends at the missing persons billboard, where Ay-Sha was last seen. People in the community have come to call Ay-Sha Shelby's sweetheart. More recently, law enforcement shared new details that a witness reportedly saw Ay-Sha get into either an early 1970s green Lincoln Mark V or Ford Thunderbird with rust around the wheel wells on the day that she disappeared. The car is definitely now considered a vehicle of interest. November 2020. A prison inmate wrote a letter to the Star news station stating that he knows what happened to the 9-year-old girl nearly 21 years ago. The inmate's name? Marcus Mellon. Here's what his letter said. Ay-Sha Degree has been missing for over 20 years. About 4 months ago, I had found out her whereabouts and what had happened to her. She was killed and then took and buried. I do know how and what town she is in. I hope you get this letter and do come see me. It's on the up and up. He wanted to talk to the FBI, but unfortunately, the global pandemic would prove to be an obstacle. Eventually, the Cleveland County Sheriff, Alan Norman, followed up and spoke with Marcus and other inmates. Sadly, the information they gave was all second and third-party accounts and didn't lead anywhere. What are your theories? Some say she ran away from home. Why, though? She had just had her first loss in a basketball game the day before. Could she have still been upset over that? Her family said that she had calmed down after a couple of hours. Another idea is that she was trying to act out one of the books her 4th grade class had recently read. It's called A Whipping Boy, and it details a young prince and a commoner child who takes lashings on behalf of the royals. The children in the story run away, and it describes their adventures while on the run. Both boys return safely to the kingdom at the end of the book. It seems possible that she might want to recreate what she had read in the book, but it's not known if this was her motive. Another possible theory is that someone lured her into running away. It would have had to have been someone close to her to convince her to run away. But who? Ay-Sha was a shy little girl who grew up in a rather sheltered life. The family didn't even own a computer for her to talk to online strangers. Anyone with information in the Cleveland County area specifically can call the Cleveland County Sheriff's Department at 704-484-4822 or the FBI at 704-672-6100. There is also a website that you can go to, which is tips.fbi.gov. My thoughts and prayers are with Ay-Sha's family. Thanks so much for watching my video. Be sure to subscribe to Ride Around with me and hear more missing persons cases. Here's 2 more videos to check out in case you missed them.